And I believe we are live. Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Well, thank you so much, April, for taking the time to talk about how to be more confident and comfortable on camera. I know this is something that I've struggled with over the years. I think I've gotten a little better, but I am certainly no expert. So I'm really excited to hear your expertise and have you share that with the people listening in on YouTube, but also the people who will be listening in on my podcast when I edit this for that. So, just to start, how about we have you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And so I am the CEO of Rockstar Mom Sisterhood. We are a blog, a travel and lifestyle blog for moms who really want to have a, excuse me.
Oh,
We
no
are,
worries.
we're for moms who think outside the box, who want to travel, who think that life is so much more than what we were brought up to believe. As far as, just get up, go to work, come home, make dinner, go to bed, kiss the kids, and rinse and repeat. I've never been somebody that wants to like follow that. I'm kind of a free spirit, always have been. So that's me. I started my career actually in music. I am a singer-songwriter. I've done everything from musicals to country music. I just love music. I love being on stage. And so I did that for a long time. And now that I'm a mom, I just kind of want to kick back and enjoy my life.
And I love what you said there because I feel like a lot of people kind of wait for whatever it is, the 2 weeks of your vacation or retirement, whatever it is, where they're like, okay, then I'm going to be able to relax and
Right.
enjoy. But really, like, we should be enjoying our life every day because you never know
Exactly.
what will happen. I mean, we're living that now. I mean, who would have thought we'd be in a
Right.
pandemic? Uh,
Exactly.
so yeah, when we had spoken earlier, you'd mentioned to me that while being on camera is not the easiest thing for most people, I know myself included, it is such a strong medium for bloggers as they can connect on a more personal level with their audience. And I couldn't agree more. With that in mind, how do you feel as though this has helped you connect with your audience on a more personal level?
Well, honestly, I feel like, especially if you're representing your company or even as a musician or you're a blogger, it doesn't matter what kind of an entrepreneur you are the face of a brand. So I look at certain brands where, you have Nike and that's a great brand, but there's no face to the brand. They just use celebrities to represent. But other brands, the ones that I really find myself in tune with, Disney, you have Walt Disney. He was the big kid that we got to see in all of us. So he used his personal brand to reach out to everybody and encourage them to have that fun side, even if they're an adult. Tony Robbins is another great one. I love Tony Robbins, but
Same.
yes, I swear I listen to him anytime I start to feel like I'm getting down again, I just like let him lift me right back up. But he is associated with that. And he has built such a brand that when you think personal development, you think Tony Robbins. Oprah's built this huge conglomerate all around her personal brand. And what they do is they can inspire people.
Hmm.
But it has helped me in a way too. And this was something that I struggled with as a musician. In the beginning, I thought that I had to really just be what everybody else was. And it wasn't until I met with a mentor that actually sat with me, and I was trying to dye my hair super blonde and look like all the other country stars out there. And she was like, get your hair back to your natural color, just be yourself. And that's what's going to shine through. And as soon as I did that, it was like a switch went off. And all of a sudden my career as a musician started to soar. I was opening up for um, big name stars, Janet Kramer, Craig Campbell, Parmalee, playing all those shows with them. So it was just me being me. And I was getting up on stage and I was acting goofy and I was acting silly and I was just being myself. And by doing that, I was able to really connect with the audience. That was when the audience members started coming up to me afterwards and I had a table set up and they wanted my autograph. They were connecting to me on Twitter. They were connecting to me on Facebook. Instagram wasn't as big then, but there were a few people that were connecting there. But I found that that is the best way because your audience wants to find something in you that lives in them that maybe they're afraid that they won't be able, they can't let out. So that's what I've really found. And if you can do that, you're basically appealing to their emotional side. And if you're appealing to their emotional side, then that's what's going to get them when they think of whatever service it is that you offer. That's what they're going to think of you immediately, because you're going to, rather than just a thing, they're going to relate an emotion to you, which is big. So I think that's really been a huge thing for me.
Oh yeah. And I think too, like, if you go to say a big department store and you have an amazing experience, you might associate it with the brand, but it also could have just been because maybe you had like a really helpful person that time. And then
Yes,
you go back and it's terrible. Meanwhile, when you follow a person, whether for their music or you love their Instagram or their blog, whatever it is, I feel like you get to know their personality and you can say like, I really trust this person because they're
yes,
constantly putting out great music or putting out great content, or they've helped me achieve XYZ personally. Um,
exactly.
yeah, so I totally agree. So, building on that, what would be the first step someone who is camera shy should take to get more comfortable?
Okay, well, I'm going to preface this by saying that I grew up as a very shy child. Um, I was very, very quiet, didn't really like, I was kind of the nerd in class. So for me to get to this part, it was a work in progress. So I don't want anybody to feel like somebody just woke up one day and they were just really great in front of the camera. I'm sure those people exist, but that wasn't me. And if I can get to this point, that anybody can. So the first thing that, and with that in mind, you really have to think about your confidence. So the first thing I say is to, if you are wanting to start to get on camera, do some exercises every morning that get you confident, whether it's doing a meditation, whether it's doing some incantations of positive statements, whatever it is, go for a walk, at the blood moving, whatever it is, do that. And then you're going to be in a better mindset. So once that happens, what you want to do is you want to just start practicing. The first few shoots, they might not be cute. If I were to show you the pictures, oh, now I'm going to date myself here because back when I started like kind of practicing, I've been wanting to be a singer since I was, oh God, like 10 years old. So when I was about 15, I would grab my little sister and we would do a photo shoot with our disposable camera. So we were thinking that we were so glamorous, and we would get dressed up and we'd do these poses. And oh my goodness, these poses did not look cute at all. But that was a learning process. And if you can just start to practice, use that as a learning process, that's going to be the first step. Just get comfortable, learn to laugh at yourself. Don't be crazy. Just have fun with it and just start. I always think of Tony Robbins saying to just show up. Just
Mhm.
show up, just start doing it. And eventually you're going to get there. You're going to feel that confidence.
I love that. And then when you personally started practicing, did you do it more just like test shots for yourself, or were these things that you still shared?
Yeah, they were just test shots for myself. I just wanted to basically start to feel comfortable because I knew eventually I wanted to go get some headshots done. Back then, I grew up in New Jersey, and back then, you had to go into New York City and sit down, and they would use the film, and then you'd have to wait for it to get developed. It's very different than it is now. But
Yeah.
I really wanted to. They were just test shots for myself to see what I liked and didn't like, and I found some poses. My eyes looked. I thought I was being sexy. You're 16. But
And then you
I
look
just
back
realized
and
I looked creepy. So yeah, it was just a matter of learning what worked and what didn't work.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's such a good idea to like, give yourself a little break. Like the first time you get in front of a camera, obviously
Mhm.
you need to like play around a little bit.
Yes.
Um, I notice one thing I do, and my fiance makes fun of me when he tapes me, but I say the same awkward phrases over and over, and he always makes fun of me. I'm like, okay, so that's something I shouldn't keep saying because then I listen back to it. I'm like, why do I keep saying that? It's such a weird thing to say, but I mean, you won't
Everybody,
know until you try.
exactly. Everybody does that. And if you were to look up Apryl Evans bloopers on YouTube, you'll find I did the same thing when I worked for a radio station, and we would do what's called the rat. It was the rat. So it was the Rat Rock News every week. And it was a video. And that again was part of my practice and part of where I really learned what I liked, how I looked on camera. And each week I got better and better. But as I was going through I did the video editing myself. And as I was going through all the old videos from the whole year, so I had about 50 weeks at that point, and I was putting some bloopers together, I realized I said the same strange phrases over and over again. So I actually took those clips and put them all in a row, making fun of myself as I made my own blooper reel. So again, it's like you realize you say these things, but just have fun with it. That's part of who you are, you know?
Yeah. And I think like that's something cool that we've been seeing, particularly on Instagram, where it was like very kind of, it still is to an extent, like very kind of edited, I guess you'd say, like pre-planned, very not Insta.
Right.
But now I think people are getting more like into the funny bloopers or just like the unedited or kind of just like the in the moment things. And I know I personally am resonating with that a lot. And I've been hearing from my community, like, I just want to be myself. Like,
Yes. I think being yourself is huge. And I think that that's what's really going to get the right audience that belongs in your tribe, as I like to say. You know, they're going to relate to you, you're going to relate to them, and that's where you're going to have your truest little tribe.
yeah. Yeah. And especially like for me, I'm in travel. I know I've tried to do the very like done up Instagrammy thing that's very not me. And like then I looked back at these shots and I thought about it. I'm like, I'm trying to get people to feel like they can travel. And by
Right.
kind of acting like this, I'm definitely not doing that. So
Exactly.
kind of caught myself there.
Yeah, and I think that that's important. You just want them to see themselves in you. Like I said, that's the biggest thing. And I personally love following the people that don't look perfect. You
hmm
know, I don't look perfect. I don't want to look at, you know, it just makes me feel bad about myself. So I love the people that don't look perfect.
Absolutely. Um, so are there any go-to poses or angles that tend to flatter most people? Just thinking back to like maybe when somebody's doing their test shoot or getting in front of the camera to create an Instagram story or whatever for the first time. Um, yeah, are there any
Absolutely.
kind of go-to poses or angles they should know about?
Certain things, if you are doing still shots, one of the things that I've realized is angles, 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 all kinds of angles. So anything straight on, if you are, and I know this is myself, so if you are subconscious, like I feel like my face can look wide in straight on photos. So I always try to just turn a little bit to the side, find your good side. That's one of the big things you want to, and that's what these test shoots are for. Like, I know this is my good side, so I'm going to always turn a little bit this way, you know. And also, if you're a female, if you're a male, it doesn't work so much, but if you're a female, stick that hip out, stick it out so far it almost is uncomfortable, and that's going to give you such a better angle. Pop your leg, that always works. I know it's so cheesy, but pop your leg, stick your hip out. It's going to give you that curvature that you're looking for. And then use your elbow like practice, you know, not straight out, but kind of like back a little bit and put your hand on your hip while you're doing that. That's always a good thing. Or even just turn to the side a tiny, tiny bit, even with your hips. And if you're feeling bloated, that's going to kind of camouflage that.
hmm
And then with the poses, you know, just don't forget there's always Photoshop and Lightroom too.
Get a little help afterwards.
Yes.
I remember when I was younger, I don't do modeling anymore, but I did when I was younger. And one exercise they would have us do is to do the alphabet, like not say it, but just like with our mouth to kind of change up the shots. And I always found that interesting. Like
Oh,
some of the shots came out really weird, but you
yeah.
did get definitely a variety of options.
Yes. Yeah. I had one photographer I worked with, and he worked with a lot of models that were at Maxim. And he actually shot one of my, I was in a Mets calendar, and then that's how I met him. And then he shot my EP cover shoot. And he was having me do this really weird thing where I like parted my lips just a little bit, and it looked great on all these other women, but it just looked odd on me. It was so not me.
Maybe too, because you felt odd doing it. So it's like, maybe that's, like finding the poses that
Right.
you feel confident doing.
Exactly. And that's it too. Yeah. You really want to do something that you feel confident doing. And again, getting straight back to that thing where like, just be yourself. If you're goofy, take some goofy pictures. Have fun with it. And that's the other thing, if you're new to it, don't forget to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I just came to mind this girl I follow, Allison Marshall. She takes like all of her, professional photos. I mean, they look really professional in terms of like quality, but she always has like, crazy hat on, crazy colors, her tongue sticking out, like just nuts, but it's
Yes.
so her. And it's so like, I know when even if she wasn't in the picture, like if the face was blurred out, I would know that it's her because it's
Exactly.
just her style. Yeah.
Yeah. So there she is. She's on brand, and it's her personality coming out. And that's what's amazing, that, being yourself really can be the thing that gets you where you're looking to go.
So what are some skills people can practice to get more comfortable on camera?
I think it's really just going to come back down to that practice and confidence. And I encourage everybody to find some sort of personal growth program that works for you. There's free resources out there, but feeling comfortable in your own skin, knowing that you don't have to look like these Instagram models in order to attract a following. Like I said, some of my favorite people are not a size zero. I'm not a size zero. I used to be, and now I'm not. And I'm actually finally, it took me a long time to get comfortable with myself as far as that goes. So to me, I honestly, when I was thinking of launching Rockstar Mom Sisterhood, because I took some time off between my music and starting my blog, I actually kept putting it off because I didn't want to do a photo shoot because I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. And that was a mistake, because you have to love yourself as you are. So I just really focused on, yes, I'm trying to, get back to my old self, of course, but in the meantime, you just want to celebrate who you are. So I think it just really comes down to just practice and confidence.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's, we all maybe have, a goal that we have, or whether it's your weight or something totally different, like a work goal. But I feel like, when we spend so much time just saying, oh, when I get there, when I do this,
Yeah,
I'm going to be happy. It's like, no, you have to enjoy the journey too. You have to be happy leading up to that goal. It's great to have goals, but
right.
can't be miserable until you reach them.
Right. You can't stop living your life. And maybe by showing up in your imperfect state, imperfect in your own mind, you can inspire somebody with your journey. As you're going through your journey, maybe somebody's going to want to join you. Maybe showing up you are meant to show up to help that person or those people. And that's serving others. And that's the other thing that you really have to think of when you're building your brand. It's about serving others.
Mm-hmm. So then going off of that, I was just thinking, well, two things that came to mind. You mentioned having a personal program to gain confidence. Do you have any resources or programs that you recommend that maybe worked for you, or just that you've heard are great?
I love meditation. I think meditation is absolutely wonderful. I've been doing it for a few months now. At first, it feels very strange. I use the Calm app,
Mm-hmm.
and I find that it's absolutely wonderful. I use it to go to sleep, and then I do a meditation or two during the day. I can't always do it in the morning, just with my son, because he's so active. So actually, when he naps is when I do my meditation. So just find the time whenever you can fit it in. But I've found that at first it felt really awkward and strange. But after about 30 days, you really start to see the difference in your life, how you handle stress. When stress comes your way, you know how to breathe and keep control. So definitely meditation, getting some sort of movement in. It doesn't have to be exercise, or you don't have to be a gym rat, but definitely getting some movement in, getting the blood flowing. Go for a walk, especially while we're all cooped up.
Yeah, walks are like
With this
saving me right now.
quarantine. Just get some fresh air, because it can definitely get us down. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I really love to do is, and this sounds odd, but I love to go back from time to time if I start to feel like I'm losing my confidence, and honestly write my story out, write a story of a win that I had or multiple wins that I had. So I look back and I look at, for me, I worked for a radio station for a year. I won a contest. It was basically like a pageant. And we had to do photo shoots and video shoots basically in order, that was part of it, and showing up at events and talking to people and networking in order to win this contest. It was partially radio station decision and it was partially um, listener decision. And so I had so many people tell me, I don't know why you're bothering. You're not going to win this. You're putting so much time into this.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it was like, you should win it, but what are the chances?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, what are the chances if I don't try? So I kept showing up. I remember I drove, it was about an hour away from where I lived at the time. And I drove in a snowstorm for 3 hours to get to an event that I had to be at in order to stay into this competition. And I made it there on time. I got there, everything was fine. And I ended up winning the whole thing, and it completely changed my career. And every time I start to feel down, I go through and I write out. That's just one of my wins. It can be a small win, whatever it is. And just remind yourself of who you are. And that's a big thing for me. Just remind yourself of who you are and practice gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Say it out loud. Say, I am thankful for this. Or, if you're a religious person, thank you, God, for my health, for my beautiful house, for my children, whatever it is, So those are the things that I think as you practice them, and if you do it for about 30 days, you're going to get addicted to it. And once you get addicted to it, then it's just going to keep on getting better. But those are the things that I feel bring confidence back to me when I'm starting to lose it.
Mm-hmm. And then going back to what you were saying before too, still with confidence, I know you said you started before Instagram was really a big thing, but like, would you say starting on an app or something a little bit smaller is easier? Like, I feel like on YouTube, the videos tend to be a little more produced and maybe a little bit longer. Whereas like, TikTok, you do a 30-second video, or I just joined TikTok today. So I don't know exactly how long those videos are, but like a shorter form thing, or Instagram stories where you might have some stills and then a shot of you. Like, do you have a recommendation for kind of maybe a way that might be the easiest to get started?
I would definitely go with an Instagram or even a Facebook, where you can reach out to people, you can find an audience, but you don't have to go so big all in. I love Instagram stories because you can record it and you don't have to save it to your highlights. So
Can
it can
disappear.
yes. So you can have 24 hours of it being out there, see what the reaction is, and don't post it to your highlights, and just use that as a practice tool. That's a great option, I think, for somebody just starting out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I know too, this woman that I follow, she's actually a friend of mine. Her blog is Goal Traveler. She wasn't big into video, and then I think it was probably maybe a year and a half ago at this point, she did a challenge that was like 30 days go on Facebook Live, I think was the challenge. And she had to do something every day. And you could honestly see her just getting like better and better at the videos and getting more confident. And now she's on almost every day on
Yes.
whatever, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. And she's really good at it.
See, and that's the thing. It just goes right back to just show up. I'm doing a personal development program right now with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. And a lot of the people in there actually are very shy on camera, but there's a Facebook group and they want everybody to go on camera and introduce themselves. The people who, and this is crazy, the people who are so afraid to show up, they're pretty good. And with practice, they can be great too. And it's just confidence.
Mm-hmm.
It's abnormal to talk to your phone.
Yeah.
It's odd. It's something that does take practice to get used to. But I think, like you said, practice, practice, practice. And then by the end of it, you might find a skill that you never knew you had.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's funny too, like just now that we're in quarantine, seeing all these live streams of people who are live and they're asking a question, but then there's the little bit of lag, so they're like, "And I'll wait 30 seconds to see if you
Yeah.
answer." But you could see even in these live streams, like right in the beginning, there's a little awkwardness, but then by the end, they're like totally comfortable. So just
Yeah.
like getting into it and just doing it.
It's funny you see that with beginners on stage as well. You know, when I was starting out with my music, one of the things I did to get used to being on stage was I would show up in the oh God, I forget exactly where it was, but it was Midtown. I know that, in Manhattan. And there were these little black box theaters. And I think it was every Monday night, all the way in the back of this restaurant, there was this tiny little black box theater. And I would go and just do a practice song. It was an open mic night. And you can see, and then you would get a show. So then you would be in a show with two other people, and their first song, they'd be like this. And by the end, they were like hands in the air and they were very comfortable. But the first song is always like, and then you realize, oh wait, this is fine.
It's almost like there's like a blockage and you need to just open it to get it
Yes,
flowing.
exactly.
I feel like that's like what it feels like.
No, it is. It's like you get stuck in this vice and then it just loosens and loosens and loosens and then you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. So, what does your process look like for planning a shoot in a way that is on brand and feels right for you?
Ooh, I love planning shoots. I actually might enjoy planning the shoot more than I enjoy being in the shoot, which I do love. I do love photo shoots. I find that I'm always stressed out during them, but I love the energy. So what I do is I kind of get a vision. I start researching. Pinterest is great. You can create a mood board on there, make it private. Nobody else needs to see it. Just get some ideas for the kind of pictures that you want. And also, one of the things that is the most important thing that you can do is you have to select the right photographer for you. Again, there's so many ways of kind of figuring out what your brand is. But once you have that vision, going on and finding others that are similar to you and creating the mood board on Pinterest based on that. So get that idea, pick the right photographer. And then what I always do, and this makes it a little bit harder, but I kind of envision what outfit I want and for what scene. So we just did a photo shoot. It was the first for Rockstar Mom Sisterhood, and it was with me and my son. And I had this idea that I really wanted to get some sort of a classic rock band t-shirt and leather jackets, matching leather jackets. Now my son is 10 months old and he was 9 months old at the time. So finding a baby leather jacket was a challenge. But I had the vision in my mind and this was what I wanted. And I swear, again, going back even 7 years ago, finding these things was so much harder. Now everything's just a Google search away, and Amazon has almost everything. So I found our Rolling Stones t-shirts and our leather jackets, and that to me was very on brand because it's Rockstar Mom, and kind of thinking outside the box, not having the baby in the bows and I do put them in bow ties sometimes too, don't get me wrong, but just having that. So you want to envision what you want to wear. It's super important to think about wardrobe, hair and makeup. If you're a female and you want a specific look, you can either hire a professional, make sure that, again, you find someone that you like. You don't ever want to get somebody that's just cheap and you end up looking like a clown, and then you spent money on a photo shoot and that didn't turn out well because you went cheap on the hair and makeup.
Yeah.
Or you can YouTube it if you don't have the budget for that. YouTube it, practice your makeup, practice your hair, find something that, and again, use that hair and makeup in your practice shoots. So that way, that it looks good and it's going to give you the brand image that you want, So those are just prepping for a shoot is just basically getting the vision ready, getting the right professionals in place that you're going to be utilizing. And, the day of, same thing, get confident, get confident, get in the mindset. So that's the preparation.
And is it similar for if you do a video shoot?
Absolutely. Definitely. You really want, I feel video is even more so as far as getting the right makeup artist, because you can't really Photoshop a video. So
Unless you want to go frame by frame by frame by frame.
exactly. Exactly. So, you really want to get the right professional team behind you, especially like I said, the last thing you want to do is go cheap on your makeup and just have to trash the whole video because you don't like the way your makeup came out. I've had that happen, and I speak from experience.
It's like you might as well just spend the extra and get something you like first, like cheaping out, and then like you have
Yeah,
a kind of meth thing that maybe you don't even want to use.
exactly. I learned from experience to bring my own makeup too, just in case.
Yeah.
I'm serious, like bring your own, just your essentials, because I had somebody not show up once. And I had to run, and I was an hour away from my house. I had to run to CVS and just pick up a couple quick things and do my makeup. So
Oh my goodness. Oh,
yeah,
that's so annoying.
I know.
When you plan, like, there's a lot of moving parts, but it's usually not a super cheap thing. Like you want everyone to show
No,
up.
I know. So
uh,
I don't remember. I'm sure she had a reason. I just don't remember. It was a long time ago, but I do remember having to run out and buy makeup. So
and then in terms of, you know, sometimes people will do like the DIY shoot. You're taking photos of yourself, or maybe, your friends doing it, versus hiring a team. Like for you, when do you kind of make that splurge and say, you know what, this is something worth spending money on and getting the really professional shots versus like DIYing it?
I first off, I love DIYing it, and I do want to say that if you are going to DIY it, invest in some fun lighting for your little home studio. I have a ring light that I use that cost me, I think, $47 on Amazon, and it has a little stand for my phone, and it can actually change different colors, and it's fantastic for doing a DIY. So, but when I am ready to do the whole professional thing, it just comes down to, I guess it's a personal decision really. For me, I just started doing it again to build up my new website. I had some older photos, but they were with my music brand, so creating this new brand. So I really wanted to have something that represented that. And then what I did was I reached out to a couple different photographers that I liked, and I asked if they had any kind of package that a lot of them work with a lot of different artists that constantly want to have material. So if they had anything where it would be a little bit cheaper, if I said, we're going to do 4 a year or 6 a year, or however many, so that I constantly have content. And I actually found one that had a really great deal. I think, we're doing like $200 a shoot and getting some great content. And we were going to set it up for every month, but then quarantine happened. So
Yeah.
so I'm just waiting on the next one. But the first shoot came out beautiful, and I was really excited. So that's something too, that when you are ready for that, once you feel like your brand is ready to launch and you want to keep having some great content out there, that's when you're going to want to find somebody that you can work with. And I love the idea of working with somebody on a consistent level, because then your content is consistent, and you can also usually get a pretty good, it's almost like a subscription service.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And then yeah, like on social, it'll have kind of that similar vibe. And I'm
Yeah,
sure the person gets to know you more and about your brand more, kind of gets their own
exactly.
ideas too.
Yeah, it's a really great partnership.
Yeah, I love that. Um, so after a shoot, what do you feel are the best ways for someone to critique themselves without feeling guilty or bad or negative?
One of the things that I want anybody who's looking to do this to remember is that nobody's perfect. Like you said, Instagram is very polished, YouTube is very edited, all of these things. So what you're seeing is the polished result. Um, so when you're doing your test shoots, that's not the polished result. Um, So when you're critiquing yourself, I want you to use humor, be able to make light of yourself. Like I said, I made a whole blooper reel out of my own silliness that I did on video. So you have to be able to laugh at yourself. And also, you've got to remember that some of the people I love to follow the most on social media are not perfect. As a matter of fact, some of them, I mean, just they make their whole career on their imperfections.
Mm-hmm.
And so just roll with it. Don't think you need to look like anybody else. Also, you're looking at it to get better. You want to focus on the positive. Say, this one looks great, and find the ones that look great first. And then when you see the ones that don't look great, say, I don't like this because of this, or I don't like this because of that. And those are the things that you just say, okay, I'm not going to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things where I'm like, my eyes look crazy there, or a certain angle where I'm like, yeah, that wasn't the most flattering, but this angle looks great. If you find a few that you love, then you can really focus on just saying, okay, don't do that and do this, rather than don't pick yourself apart. You're not there to do that.
Yeah. And it sounds like too, like instead of looking at something, just saying like, oh, that looks terrible, kind of saying like, because, this thing would
Exactly.
be better this other way.
Exactly. You want to go for the constructive criticism rather than just the straight up criticism.
Yeah. Rather than the beating yourself
Yeah.
up type of thing.
And
Absolutely.
remember, the ones you don't like, no one's ever going to see. So why care? I mean, if you were to look at my phone right now, you'd be like, oh God, there are so many bad pictures. People, what you see is my best picture when I post it up. And then I use Photoshop and Lightroom to correct the lighting and crop it in just a way that everything looks the way that I want it to. So that's, again, it's the finished product.
Oh yeah. And people who are new to apps and editing might be shocked at like really how much you can edit. Like,
Oh,
moving like the corner of the room over. Like you could really edit anything.
oh yeah. Absolutely. The things that you can edit out of a picture are insane, and you'd probably be surprised to see what some of the people that super edit look like outside of that.
Oh yeah. I've definitely seen some videos. Like I personally I don't hardcore when I edit my photos, I'm usually doing more like light color. Like I usually bump
Same.
shadows down, brighten, maybe a little saturation. I've never really edited my face unless maybe I had a big pimple, I might take that out. But
Right.
I've seen some people really like, I've never used it with this Facetune app, like, but really like change the whole shape of their face. I'm like, and they're totally open about it too. I'm like, that
It,
is wild that you could just do that.
it is wild, and I see it. So, there's a way of even just simple tweaks, like you said, like if there's like a pimple, or like, you had a long night and you have bags under your eyes or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
and that, but I always say you don't want to change your look. One of the big things, again, going back to actually that same photographer that had me doing the funny faces, he edited my photos so much to try to make me look like his brand that I was like, I actually, thank God I know how to edit photos, because I went in and edited them back. Like he made my eyes too big, and I was like, my eyes aren't that big. I'm going to show up and people are going to look at me and say, who are you? So I like
Exactly.
edited them back. He made my lips too big. He tried to like suck my face in too much. And I was like, no, that's not me. So I actually unedited the photos. Yeah. So because he was a model photographer, and his photos are gorgeous, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't on brand for me. So I had to go in and kind of, again, it's I find that some of my imperfections are part of my brand, and
Hmm.
I've learned to own them. And I think that's really important for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, I feel like it's interesting too, especially today when I mean, maybe, people listening in, maybe you're new to getting on camera, but likely at some point it's going to be something you do. if you're posting these photos where you know, look totally different and then you're popping on Instagram stories or YouTube or whatever and you look totally different, I think
Yes.
it's going to be a little shocking to people who watch.
Exactly. It's going to be jarring, and then they're going to feel, I feel that as if you're going to lose some sort of a trust bond with your audience. That was, I guess, subconsciously that was how I felt when I received the edited photos back from him, and I said, I feel like I'm going to show up and they're not going to know me. And then I felt like they weren't going to trust me and what I was saying. And part of my whole, music thing is being a little rough around the edges. And I would go on stage with a Jack and Coke and, just to have that,
I love that.
yeah, I was more Miranda Lambert than Faith Hill, let's put it that way. But that's who I am, like I am the girl that goes out and has fun with her friends and just like her hair is messy at the end of the night and she doesn't care.
Mhm.
I'm not super polished. So I didn't want people to think that I was lying on my album cover. And that's the same thing with Instagram. You don't want people to think that you're lying in your photos. They're not going to be able to relate to you then. And
Yeah.
that's especially if you're a blogger, especially if you're a musician, and even as a business owner. Trust is everything. You want people to feel like they're in your tribe. If you show up to your friend's house, do you expect them to be in full regalia all the time? Of course you don't.
Yeah.
They might be in their pajamas. And if you can see your whoever you're following in those moments, then all of a sudden it's to them, it's like a friendship. It's like the celebrities that you feel like you really know. The Zachary Levi. I don't know if everybody's familiar with him. He's from Shazam. He does a phenomenal job at being himself on social media. On Instagram, he does Instagram lives, and he's like in the middle of a workout in his gym, and he just looks like a mess. And I love following him and learning from him how to relate to people, because he is unapologetically himself.
Mhm.
That is so important. And so many people, you could see on the live, so many people are like chiming in and typing. They love him for it. It's amazing. And so again, just, that build that trust, build the friendship with your followers.
Yeah, there's a woman I follow who does, her name's Hillary Rushford. She's always like,
I love her.
yeah, she'll like be teaching a master. She's like, oh, teaching a class at 2. And you hop on, she's like mid curling her hair. But you feel like you're like in her house with her, just hanging out, like you said, like she invited
Exactly.
you over.
Yeah, it doesn't feel so done up, and I don't know. It just feels like you can hang out and watch a movie and drink some wine together.
Yeah. And I bet for her too, I mean, I can't speak for her, but I bet in some ways it probably is a little relaxing because if you're just sitting here, you're like, but if you're like doing something and kind of like still moving around, it probably does feel a little bit more natural to just be doing what you would be doing in that movement.
Of course. No, I definitely think that. And for somebody who's new on camera, that's something to think about too. Maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe that's part of your brand. If you're quirky, put it out there. If you want to just be like doing your hair while you're, just talking to people, whatever.
Yeah. Or like, for the travelers, like maybe you're packing for your next trip while you, instead of sitting there talking about
Yes.
where you're going, like maybe you're packing, be like, oh yeah, I'm bringing this, like just like put yourself in a situation. Maybe that's more natural to be talking about whatever, you're doing your video on.
Absolutely. And I think that's actually a lot more interesting than just so many people are sitting there just talking, but it's so much more interesting to feel like you're part of the action. And you probably will get a bigger following for something like that too.
Yeah. And I'm curious too, because you were saying, for your photo shoot, you had the jackets, and then when you're on stage, you brought the Jack and Coke. Like, how do you decide what, I guess, brand elements to put in a shoot? Or, yeah, like how to sort of what to put in there to tell your story?
I went through quite a few years of, I guess, self-discovery. And again, that's why I love going back to doing, the personal development things. But what I try to really do is pick up on my oddities from day to day, or pick up on the things that I do that are part of my personality, I guess. So Jack and Coke was my favorite drink at the time. Now I'm a wine drinker, but at the
Ah,
time I loved to drink Jack and Coke. And so I was like, why not bring that into my I guess brand. And then the other thing that I had was I always had really interesting shoes. So that was part of, people would show up to the shows and be like, what shoes is she wearing this time? Every time it was always interesting shoes because I love shoes. So take something that you love and make it part of your brand. Or the leather jackets, I love showing up. I wear leather jackets, in the spring and the fall. So I'm like, that is who I am. So you
mm-hmm.
want to find, I always think about, let's say, Beyonce, she always says that when she gets on stage, she is Sasha Fierce. So she's, and when I was with the radio station, I would interview these rock stars, or lack of a better term, musicians that were in these rock bands. And the thing that I found the most interesting was that they were a different person in the interview, not a different person, but they were such a more subdued person in the interview than they were on stage. They were still the same person, but they were like, they brought out the extreme parts of themselves to the stage. So I kind of took a lesson from them, and I was like, oh, so drinking Jack and Coke, I wouldn't drink that all day long. So, but to have it with me all the time is an extreme version of myself, but it's still part of myself.
Yeah.
So you create this larger than life version of yourself, but still keeping the raw elements, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's just I guess it's just a lot of self-discovery, just kind of taking the time to notice your little things throughout the day. Getting away from corporate America, which I was in for way too long, kind of helped me discover my true self as well. So, kind of, I was never a good 9-to-5er. I promise you that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
I want to do what I want to do.
Exactly. I feel like I've actually gotten into a practice of every morning, usually for about 2 hours, I will like journal, meditate, yoga. Now I'm going for more walks just because I want to get out of the house, but just doing things that I enjoy. Like sometimes it could be just like playing with my cat, like whatever I'm feeling right then. And I don't know. I feel like when you wake up and just start working, you kind of like don't have that space to think. And then by the end of the day, I'm honestly too tired to
Yes,
journal or meditate. So
exactly.
for me in the morning, it's like when I really want to do that. And then like you were saying, I also rewrite my brand out very often. It's on my wall, but I just like to write it and see if anything else comes up, and just really remind myself of like what I'm doing and why and who I am, and really trying to
Right.
stay away from this is what I should do, and get more into like this is what I want to do because it feels right and feels good.
Yes.
And I think that's easier to do when you're in a place of like, I just did this thing that I love. I'm in a really good mood. Da, 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 da.
Yeah,
Like
it
versus
is.
getting out of bed, looking at the phone and instantly just like sweating.
Oh, I completely agree. And what's crazy is I got into such a habit of looking at my phone when I woke up. And after my son started we co-sleep, and there's some people love it, some people hate it, but that's just how I do things. But I realized he was waking up and trying to find my phone when he turned about 7 months. And I was like, what am I teaching him?
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, I don't want that for him. So I started not looking at my phone for about an hour after I wake up. And it has completely changed my mood. And,
Yeah.
we play, and, then we make breakfast and we sing songs and we just have fun for the first hour. And it completely just got me back into that whole self-discovery mode, where journaling is so great too, where you can get so caught up in the mundane, checking your phone, checking your email, getting up, throwing back a cup of coffee and running out the door to go to work. If you still have to do a 9-to-5 because, that's life. I mean, right now it's not life, but
Yeah. After quarantine.
Get up a little earlier, get up an hour early and take that time though, like you said, because by the time you get home, you're like too tired. But if you get up a little early, do the journaling, you still won't lose yourself in the day to day.
Yeah. And for me, I know when I'm journaling, I often come up with really good ideas for videos and photos, social media captions, blog posts, like all kinds of stuff. I'll just be like, "Oh my gosh, this is a great idea. I'm going to like dive into this and flesh this out." And you can come up with some really good ideas that I just don't think are really possible when you're just moving from task to task really fast.
No, it's so true. I even found that, when I journal, I actually come up with a lot more song ideas. Because I still have my list of song ideas. If I ever get back to doing the music thing, that's always going to be there. But I've over the years found every time I'm journaling more, I have such a better song list of things I want to write, because I don't know what it does to your brain, but it completely just shakes loose all the little things hiding in there.
Yeah, I feel like it's I feel like it's that thing where you wake up at 3 a.m. and you have great ideas because you didn't really let yourself have ideas during the day. It's almost like a
Yeah,
little bit of like playtime for your brain or something.
yeah, it's great, and you have to, it's all self-care really, but
Hmm.
that's where you're gonna, I think that's where you're gonna find your brand and all your confidence too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just a last question. How do you feel employing the strategies that you've mentioned so far in this interview? How do you feel like those have helped you build your career?
Oh wow, I go right back to that meeting I had with my mentor that really changed my music career, where she kind of um, just basically let me be myself a little bit more. Or she said, go back to, I had my hair all blonde. I was trying to be this little Barbie doll princess. And she was like, no, 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 halt, stop, be yourself. And, get comfortable in your own skin and things will start to come to you. And I think that was really what changed things for me. And then even before that, when I was the phase of my life where I was at the radio station, I was so unconfident before I before I ended up getting that job. But I built my confidence up. I went to the gym and kind of again did the journaling and did all this other stuff, and then everything started happening for me. So I think it's just, again, it's all confidence. Build up your confidence, build up your happiness, and you know and then on camera it won't feel like a chore. It'll be fun.
Yeah. And you'll know what to say because you know who you are, I think.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to share this great information, share your wisdom and experience. I will, your link's already in the YouTube video, but I'll, of course, add them to the podcast. But just so people listening know, what are the best places to find you?
So my Instagram handle is Apryl Evans. It's April with a Y, so it's APRYLEVANS. That's pretty much my handle on most social media, Twitter, Instagram, and my website is rockstarmomsisterhood.com.
Love it. And what's your main? I know last week when I was chatting with someone, we were like, Instagram was sort of the main, and now with the pandemic, we're all about Twitter. Like I know right now I am like so like, and I forgot how much I like Twitter because it's so off the cuff. You can kind of post like anything. I don't know. Do you
Yes.
have a favorite channel that you're usually on?
I would definitely say Instagram, but I love Twitter for that same reason. I always think of Blake Shelton and his like random tweets, and those are fun. But I'm definitely mostly on Instagram and Instagram stories these days.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.